Hello friends, welcome back to Golf 101. If you missed the last episode, go check that out. In the last one, we talked a little bit about weight distribution and balance in the golf swing, and today we're talking about ball position and a little bit of setup. So the reason that ball position and setup are so important is this directly impacts how the club makes contact with the ball. It'll change the centerness of contact, a little bit of your face and your path. It'll change your angle of attack into the golf ball. It'll change your spin loft, spin rate. So a lot of things that are determined by the way that we set up to the golf ball and where we put the golf ball in our stance. So when it comes to stance and ball position, there's a couple different commonly used theories and tendencies in the golf swing. I'm going to run you through the way that I like to think about it, but I'll also talk about how some other people like to address ball position setup, just not necessarily what works for me and what I like to teach. But we'll start with what I usually teach and what I usually do in my own golf swing. And that is that every club has its own personalized spot in the stance where the ball goes. And we don't change that for a stock shot. If we're going to try to hit a low or a high shot or something like that, we might change it. But for a stock shot, every club has their own ball position, both distance from your lead and trail foot and distance away from you. And those two things are going to come together to create your own personalized kind of spot in the stance where each ball goes for each club. And that is just going to determine how we set up to each golf ball. So for this, I'm going to start at the top of my bag and kind of work my way down. So we're going to start with driver. Unfortunately, I don't have a driver with me today, so we're just going to use one of my irons and just kind of pretend. But for the driver, the big thing with the driver that no other club has to really worry about is teeing it up. You know, we can tee it up on the tee shot on every hole. We can tee it up with irons, with hybrids, woods, driver. But the driver is the one that is consistently teed up every time you use it, except for a couple rare situations where you might hit driver off the deck. But for the driver, the big thing is, unlike an iron or any other club that we're hitting off the ground, with the driver off the tee, we are going to be hitting it on the upswing. So for this, I'm going to tee it up. What I like to do when I tee up my driver is I like to have the top line of my driver splitting the golf ball in half when it's sitting on the ground. Obviously, I can't really illustrate that with the iron here, but that's step one. Step two is finding a comfortable distance away from the golf ball. So in a past video in posture, I talked a little bit about this idea of having your arms hang and then grabbing the golf club. With the driver, it's going to be a little different. With the driver, I like to extend my arms out just a tiny bit, not too exaggerated, but I really want to focus on having the driver sit almost flat on the ground, but with the toe slightly up. That's what works for me. You might have success in other ways, but for me, I like to have the toe slightly up. So then I will find that distance away from the ball that I like, and I'm going to set up with the golf ball just inside my lead big toe here. So I don't want it to be super far forward where I'm really reaching for it, but I don't want to be so far back because I really want to hit this on the upswing. So I'm going to pick a spot past my low point where the club is leaving the ground and traveling up. And for me, what works best is just inside that big toe there. I'm going to take my stance, and then I would just go through and hit that driver on the upswing, kind of moving out and away, and just trying to catch that ball going up. The reason we're swinging and trying to hit this ball on the upswing here is the driver doesn't have a lot of loft. And we want to add a little bit of loft artificially with the way the club is traveling through the golf ball. And this is going to help us get a little bit more height, and it's also going to control the spin a little better. So next we have our fairway metals. And for our fairway metals, this is kind of a gray area. Some people, you know, they're going to tee this up on the tee. Some people are going to hit it off the deck. When I'm teeing it up, I like to have it teed up just barely off the ground, a little bit lower than kind of my rule of thumb with the driver. So with the driver, the top line of the club is splitting the ball in half. I'm going to go a little lower than that with the 3-wood because my path through the golf ball is going to be a lot lower. I'm not really trying to swing up a ton on this golf ball. I'm going to swing up on it a little bit, but I'm really just trying to travel through the golf ball instead of up with it. So with this, the ball would be on a tee and it would be just slightly further back. I have a little bit of foot flare here. So in this case, the ball would be right about at my lead heel here. So this is going to give me a good spot to hit it a little bit on the upswing, but still traveling mostly horizontally through the golf ball and not really too much vertically. Uh, I do this both when I'm teeing it up and when it's on the deck. And when it's on the deck, my main focus and my main concern is making sure I'm really going through the ball and not really catching it on the upswing, because that's how we get those topped and those thin golf balls. So we really want to make sure that with a 3-wood here, we're going through the golf ball, especially off the deck. If we're traveling up, we might catch it a little thin, we might top it, and we're not going to get the desired launch that we want. If we're going through the golf ball, it allows us to deliver the entire loft of the golf club to the golf ball, and we're going to see that desired launch we want. We're going to see much better spin, and we're going to see a much better contacted golf ball and much better ball flight. So next we have our hybrids. For our hybrids, we are kind of doing the same thing. We're moving the ball a little closer to us and a little further back in the stance. It's still going to be up in the stance. We're not getting near the middle of the stance yet, but it's going to be a little bit inside that lead foot. What this is going to do is we're still trying to maximize or really make efficient the amount of loft that we deliver to the golf ball. So if we have it too far forward here, we're going to top it or we're going to thin it. If we have it too far back, we're going to kind of shut down that face there, and we're not going to deliver enough loft to the club. So just inside that lead foot is going to give us the optimal amount of loft and the appropriate angle into the golf ball that we want to maximize and really optimize our spin, our launch angle, all of that fun stuff. So again, for the hybrid, for all the hybrids, if you have multiple, I'm going to put the ball just inside my lead foot there, a little bit closer to me. This is where I really start to get to the point where the arms are hanging naturally instead of being out a little bit. And this is going to give me a comfortable distance away from the golf ball, as well as a comfortable feeling in my arms where they're straight but not really tense. And it's going to really set me up for the optimal ball flight with this hybrid here. So now we're getting into the irons, and this is where some pros have some different ideologies and most golfers have different ideologies. So with the irons, I like to have each iron at a different point in my stance. There are some pros that probably teach this, and there are a lot of golfers who do have certain clubs, a certain range that goes in the same part of the stance. But under my ideology, every club has a different loft, so we need to treat every shot differently. So my 4 and my 5 iron, although they're very similar, my 4 iron has less loft, so I'm going to put it a little further up in the stance, where my 5 iron, it's going to go a tiny bit back in the stance. We're not making any huge adjustments, but just these minor things, for me, they make a difference. And it's really what I use to optimize my spin, my launch angle, my club path, my club face. Everything in my golf swing is kind of tailored to the specific club I'm using. This is also true with the distance away from the golf ball. So every club in my bag is a different length. So each club is going to be set up a little bit further or closer to the ball, to where if I have like a 4 or 5 iron, they're going to be a little further out than like a pitching wedge or a 9 iron, for example. Other than that, I can kind of run through very quickly kind of what my stance looks like. So we'll start with the 4 iron, my longest iron in the bag. That's going to be kind of inside that lead foot, a little bit closer to me and a little bit closer to the center of my stance than the hybrid. And then from there, it would go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then my wedges. Notice how with every single club, I move both closer to the ball and the ball moves closer to the center of my stance. The ball does not ever go to the back of my stance for a stock shot. If I'm hitting a specific shot that I want to keep low to the ground and want to take less loft into the golf ball, or maybe a certain shot in the short game, those shots I might play in the back of my stance. But in those cases, I'm really varying my golf stance as well as like the whole setup. It's not really something stock that I'm trying to do. So some golfers, they will put their wedges in the back of their stance. They'll do this to try to kind of hit down on the golf ball and compress and all that. I don't really like doing this. It takes some of the loft off your wedges and thus decreases the spin and lowers the launch angle. When for a lot of wedge shots, we want those high launching, high spinning shots. So we don't really want to do this unless it's our goal and our purpose to have a lower, less spinny golf shot. And lastly, I'll briefly talk about the putter. So with the putter, some golfers, they'll go middle of the stance. Some golfers will go front or back. I kind of like having my putter set up kind of about 75% of the way toward my front foot. So it's kind of, I take the halfway point, then I split that in half with my front foot. That's where I like to set up the putter. My putter has 4 degrees of loft, and with the way that my putting stroke works, that's just the best place for me to make solid, consistent contact with the putter. That's something that really you want to play with on your own, kind of find the best spot for it. But a general rule of thumb, you don't want to have it anywhere in the back of your stance. You want it middle or maybe a little bit in front of the middle, just to be striking the ball like through the middle of your stance and not before you get to the middle of your stance. That can just cause a couple issues. So we want to make sure that at the furthest back, it is in the middle of our stance, right where the putter is returning to zero and returning to square with our sternum and just at the center of our body. Some people like it exiting a little higher and like it on the upswing a little bit. I fall into that category, but that's really something for you to see what you see the most success with, what you see the most consistency with, and the best contact with. And my final disclaimer here, although what I showed you can work for your golf swing and works for me, this is something that I have really worked on and tailored to my swing and my clubs over the years. Your swing and your clubs are going to be different from mine. So you might have irons that are the same length. You might have a different swing that requires a different kind of setup. Although these are general rules of thumb and a pretty good idea of how you can get really dialed with your setup, this is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Uh, every player is going to be different, both with their equipment and their golf swing. So don't take this as a fact or as like golf law here. Try it out for yourself. See what works for you. Maybe it works better for you if you have a range for your long irons, mid irons, short irons, all your hybrids, your woods, your driver. Maybe you're kind of in my boat and you have one specific spot for every club in the bag. But this is something that you really need to go out and test for yourself. Go to the range, hit a bucket of balls, hit every club in your bag, kind of see what feels the best. See kind of what kind of setup works for you, what kind of ball position works for you. And then from there, you kind of have a general idea of what you want to be looking for when you step out on the golf course and when you have to address these shots with any club in your bag that you might find. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave any comments with any questions you have, any future topics you want me to cover, all that good stuff. And as always, let's play for par.